I'm excited to get some time with you. I'm sure you don't remember, but we actually did an interview way back during your time with the 4400. I believe it was towards the end of the series, but it was a wonderful experience, and I'm excited to talk about Star Trek and your impressive career today.
Thanks. I had a great time doing 4400, all because of Ira Stephen Bear, which has definitely a strong Star Trek connection,
Absolutely. Actually, I got to meet him as well a couple of years ago for the DS9 documentary. So that was my first time meeting him in person. Your history with Star Trek is so impressive. I'd really love to start there with the fact that you've got Creation Entertainment's ST Chai event this week. You've had the opportunity to play in so many different roles and so many different capacities across different series. And most actors are fortunate to maybe get one role with Star Trek. But, between Liquidator Brunt, the various Weyouns, Shran, and then even more recently getting to be Agimus on Lower Decks, do you just get a kick out of antagonizing our friends in Starfleet, or is it something else that keeps bringing you back to the world of Star Trek?
Well, I don't think it has anything to do with what I am trying to do in antagonizing anybody. It's just flat out luck, and okay, I prepared myself for whatever might come along, hopefully, but when I look back on it, it kind of it sort of startles me how lucky I was just by how everything lined up. I had auditioned a couple of times on Deep Space Nine and not gotten the role, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every actor walks back to the dugout and puts the bat back in the holder and says, shit, didn't get that one. But I got one, thanks to Jonathan Frakes. He auditioned, and we had a passing acquaintance. We knew each other socially a little bit. We were paired up once for an audition, and we had that. But, I had no expectation that he would necessarily cast me, but he did, and that got me on set. And the real luck of it was that that's sort of a oneer. It was a show called Meridian, I think was the title of it, the episode. And really, that character never showed up again. But I was on set at a time when Renee, my dear friend Renee Aubergenois, was preparing to direct for the very first time a Star Trek episode. And it was a Ferengi episode, and he's the one who suggested me to the producers. They were resistant because naturally they go, well, you just did one. And they go, but he's a good actor and you'll never know. You know what I mean? And that got me started returning.
Your range is so impressive with all these characters. I'm curious, getting to do something like Lower Decks, where it has more of a comedy bent versus, we'll say more straight-faced characters that you've had to play. How was that stepping into that animated world or version of Star Trek?
Well, I suppose if you look back on my career, there's always tinges and flavors and spices of comedy. Even if it's the most serious thing, I try to find some kind of humor somewhere, because in life there is some kind of humor in every situation. So when I started in theater and everything, I was predominantly thought of as a more of a comedy actor, as opposed to like, oh my God, we're doing Chekhov, get Jeff Gomes. You know what I mean? It was much more my comfort zone was comedy. It's only when you come to Hollywood and people just don't think of you that way. I'm good with comedy when the writing is funny. Isn't that funny? I don't know how many times in my career I would go up for sitcoms, and there's just no way I could make a dead bird fly. You know what I mean? You look at this stuff and go, I can't. There's nothing funny about this, but somebody thinks it is. So okay, and you try your best with something mediocre, which I think is why so much comedy is, at least on TV, goes to improv, stand-up comedy people, because they're perfectly comfortable with, this isn't funny, I'll make it funny, right? That wasn't me. But the writing on Lower Decks, wow, beautiful, rapid fire. I remember I would do recordings and they'd say, okay, now do a Lower Decks version, which basically meant don't take any time, just fly, let the references fly on by, don't hit them on the nose with it. It's just why that show is so wonderful. It's so crisp and quick that you don't even know.
It's been fun seeing Trek take on a different approach and celebrate all the various incarnations, all the characters they've invited back, all the plot lines and references that they've embraced, but still making it accessible has probably been, the most impressive part of it.
Yeah, kind of human. It's kind of human, and you kind of care about these people. Why did they cancel it? That's what I don't.
We are still asking that, and we're excited about the final season, but we're hoping something happens along the lines of Star Trek Prodigy where it gets saved and gets to continue in some various, shape or form.
Let's hope.
Let's stay in the sci-fi world, but pivot a little bit. Another sci-fi series that you worked on just had a big anniversary, and that was Babylon 5. And I know that you got to have a little bit of time in that universe. I was just curious, are there any memories that come to mind from getting to shoot that show in particular?
Yeah, I remember I had already done, in my hazy memory bank, I'd already done maybe one or two Deep Space Nines at that point. And, I go in an audition and I get this part. And I remember being sort of shocked at the difference in production value. By that I mean I went for my costume fitting. Well, when you go to a costume fitting for Star Trek, it's a huge bank of artists and all kinds of costumes and fabrics. It's just top of the line. You're in good hands. Okay. And when I went to Babylon 5, it was somewhere in the valley in a low slung sort of industrial building, not on a studio lot. And there was a rack of men's warehouse suits. And they said, find one that fits you. It was kind of like, a suit? Really? I thought this was, so what they did is they just turned up the collar of the suit and kind of made it sort of vaguely sci-fi, I guess. It's like, well, okay, there's a different budget going on here. But I think once they found out that I was had already done a couple of Deep Space Nines that they saw as their competition, that, they didn't ask me back. I was the last episode of the first season, the last episode with the first captain.
Well, I recently had the pleasure of going back to rewatch the series as they released it on Blu-ray, and I've watched it many years ago, but it was a joy to see you make an appearance and see all the amazing guest stars that actually came through that show as well.
Right. A lot of actors got work with that show, so that's good.
100%. So let's pivot to your voice work. You've had a lot of amazing roles in voice acting over the years. We actually have a mutual friend and a number of friends from your time at Transformers Prime. Just had dinner with Josh Keaton this last week, and he said,
"Really? I love Josh. I follow him on Facebook, but I haven't run into him or been in a recording booth with him since. But I love that guy. It was always a pleasure. That was a magical time. Transformers Prime, amazing group of people, a horseshoe of microphones and stands with just a cavalcade of really great talent. You know what I mean? It was really refreshing and the way things should be. And once again, canceled. Why? Why? Why was this canceled? Well,
you guys did such an incredible job with that series. I've gotten to meet Peter and Frank and Kevin and Steve and Josh, and we got to do the Universal Studios event for Beast Hunters. That was a very memorable interview series for us, but I just love to hear more, because Transformers, at that point had already been around for decades, but you guys really put a unique spin, but it was very grounded, and I feel like it was defining for the series.
Really well written, and it also appealed not only to children but to fans of Transformers that were now older. It had a more mature bent to it, let's say. You know what I'm saying? And I was just really, really honored to be a part of that. I knew, honestly, very little. I was aware of Transformers, but I never had watched them, and it'd been a while since they'd been on, so it was like auditioning for Ratchet. I just kind of didn't really have a frame of reference, nor did I want to go find one. I didn't want to go, who's played Ratchet before, and let me listen to their voice. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, what would I do? And fortunately, out of the multitudes, let me tell you, it's so much harder to get a voiceover job than it is to get an on-camera job, simply because of the numbers of people that can audition. It's just, the competition is just on another level. It's a miracle that it came my way, especially with all of those guys.
Amazing cast for that series, and amazing writers. The other show I really wanted to ask you about, though, was your time on Justice League Unlimited as The Question. One of my favorites.
A gift. I did all of this voiceover stuff. I have to pay homage and gratitude to Andrea Romano, a great casting director / director of voiceover, and she's the one who sort of way back when reached out and asked if I would do Scarecrow in Batman, which was my first foray into this world of, I came to realize a whole other tributary in this career. There are people that just do this. Really? Okay. You need a different agent for this? Oh, that's interesting to know. I had no idea.
Andrea is a friend as well. We've known her for many, many years, and we've done so many interviews for all the different DC animated projects and Warner Bros. Projects. But her skill at just identifying talent and bringing in the best absolutely stands above the rest.
Right. That Justice League. I did some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that she was directing. She's just always tapped me at some point when she was working, and I wouldn't have done any of it without her. Okay, none of it. So when you look back on your career and you realize just how these little intersections, these little decisions blossom into something that you didn't even see coming. It's just amazing.
I'd like to go even further back for a moment. What drew you into the world of acting in general? Was it a specific person or inspiration, or just more of that desire to get on stage and share with others?
That's a really sort of complicated and simple. When I was a kid, my first artistic sort of expression, besides being just keyed up and running around like a little skinny, little amped up little kid, was drawing. I like to draw. And when I drew, mostly I drew faces, not of people that I knew, but of people that I didn't know, characters, people. So it tells me that I was probably interested in the human characters, in personalities, in people's faces telling a story of their past and where they are emotionally. You know what I'm saying? So even before I formed this notion of I want to be an actor, which is an astounding decision to make, I think I already had an interest in watching human behavior.
That is a wonderful answer.
I just think that I was already. And then I went to drums. Drums were very urging when I was a teenager. you know, it's a way to get out a lot of, expression and vent. But when I then got the actor's bug, which just kind of came out of, listen, it's cliche. I took a drama class in high school for an easy A and to meet girls, and I didn't even audition for the play. It's just, I'm just getting an A, and it's an elective I got to do, and it's an easy one. But the first play was cast. And this was like in my junior year. It was cast. I didn't go to the audition. And the acting teacher said, Jeff, would you stay after class? And I went, oh, God, what did I do? And he said, someone dropped out, wants you to take the part. And I went, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not interested in that. But they cornered me and a good buddy of mine who was playing the lead in this play. And I finally just said yes out of just making him shut up. I was really upset that I said yes. I did not want to do this. Until first performance, and I got my first line, got a huge laugh, and the dopamine hit my brain, and I went, wait a minute, this is pretty cool. I like this. I don't know what that was. I remember that rush, though. Just bam, and I was just hooked and intrigued. And then there was no hesitation in me doing plays since then. And I was just lucky that the next town over had a little small college with a tremendous theater department. And I just went, I'm just gonna. That's my first step towards examining this crazy notion of actually being an actor. Is that even possible? So I did it for the joy of it. I wasn't thinking about getting paid or notoriety. I think that's the thing I really want to sort of point out to young people that think that they want to do this as a profession. Don't do it to be famous or to be rich. Such a mistake. Do it because you just can't do anything else. Do it because you love it. And it'll take care of you. It'll take care of you. But if you go in with some sort of overly conscious, I'm going to make money, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. Okay.
Well, I want to be respectful of time. My last question to you is, you're coming to Chicago this week for ST Chai. Is there anyone in particular you're looking forward to seeing? I know there's a plethora of Star Trek cast and crew joining, but anyone in particular that you haven't had to see in a while?
Well, the ones that I always like seeing are my Rat Pack boys. The Rat Pack crew, we're finally all going to be there. The last couple of shows that we have done, Ethan Phillips couldn't make them, or Max Kredenchek couldn't get there. He lives in Austria, so it was difficult for him to get there. But we're going to all be there. We're going to all be there. You're going to be there. That's what I want.
I'm going to be there too. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person. I heard you were doing the Rat Pack piece, but I'm just excited to get to spend some time with all of you in person in Chicago.
Well, I think you'll enjoy it, and you'll be deeply impressed. Max, I call Max Kredenchek the Al Yankovic of ours, because he takes familiar tunes that and puts Star Trek references to them, and it's just a glorious, witty, and smart. And then over the years, we've added, some of us have written our own original stuff to stick into the show too. And there's comedy, and there's touching moments, and laughter, and just a good time had by all. That's all I can say.